Welcome, everybody, and thank you to those of you who have joined. And apologies for the delayed start. It's not usually our style, but we just wanted to let a few more people come into the room. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Cara. I'm the marketing manager at Petco, and thank you all for taking time to come and join us this morning. Before we kick off, just to let you know, you've been muted and your cameras are off, but we will have a Q&A session at the end. And if you wish to speak, we like to have quite an open and engaging conversation. So you can either put your question in the chat, or you're welcome to ask to be unmuted, and we will let you talk and ask your question. So we have quite a full session for the day. I'm really looking forward to it. These are all speakers that have been a part of the Petco ecosystem for quite a while, and so I'm excited to have them here. First, we will hear from Sia from Giving Them Wings Foundation. He'll speak to us about how to set up and motivate schools to keep going. We will then hear from Emmy from the Waste Trade Company, and she will speak about what the Waste Trade Company does and what are key elements to successful schools programs. And last but not least, we'll hear from Catherine from Actuate, who works closely with the Pick and Pay Schools Club, and she'll speak to us about what the Pick and Pay Schools Club does and some of the projects that we've worked with them on. And as I mentioned, we'll then have a Q&A with the speakers. Feel free to please put any questions into the Q&A and not into the chat. So I'll just give you a bit of a background about who Petco is and what we do. So we are what's called a producer responsibility organization, and a PRO is basically an organization that assumes responsibilities of an obligated party as outlined in the government regulations regarding the collection and recycling of products. So we were incorporated in 2004. And so we've been around for quite a few years, and we are a member-driven organization aimed chiefly at ensuring our members' compliance with the regulations and going over and above that to also reach their individual company and corporate targets. As such, we've recently broadened the range of EPR schemes. Some of you may know that for a long time we were looking at PET and PET beverage bottles and PET bottles specifically, but we've recently introduced liquid board packaging, which some of you may know as Tetra Pak, and we now administer a scheme for Tetra Pak, which we are very excited about, and we've had great commitment from our member Tetra Pak in terms of setting up the scheme. So what does a PRO actually do? We work across the whole value chain. This includes working with our members to ensure that their packaging is designed in a manner that ensures that it can be collected and recycled and that it's compatible with the infrastructure that exists locally. This includes things like right weighting or using clear and light blue PET for their bottles. We educate consumers so that they are motivated and empowered to actively participate in collecting and recycling and separating their recyclables from their municipal waste in their households or at schools or at the office. We work hand in hand with municipalities to ensure that they are supported with communications and infrastructure, and we also work with them on separation at source projects. And critical to the success of the recycling value chain are the informal collectors. The role of the PRO here is to improve their working conditions, livelihood opportunities, and recognize their service while offering equipment and training support. We also support formal collection companies with equipment and training, and we work with the recycler to ensure that there's adequate demand for waste by developing the capacity of the recycler and entering into contracts with them. So this includes the development of new markets within the PET sector. It is creating demand for things like rPET through end users such as fiber or geotextiles, which can, and most importantly for food grade PET, which can actually go right back into new packaging. And as I mentioned, we're a membership-based organization, and we are paid a membership fee by our members, who are brand owners, retailers, or importers who place more than 10 tons of identified product onto the South African market. And we then put various initiatives in place, as mentioned on the previous slide, to make sure that their packaging is collected and actually reprocessed or recycled in South Africa. So about 70%, 70 to 80% of the PEDCO budget is actually spent on assisting projects that support recyclers. As mentioned, we enter into contracts with them, and we provide funding in support of these partners to ensure that their volume targets are met, and that through adverse economic cycles, these programs are actually sustained. So our contracts with these recyclers give them the confidence to also invest downstream, which means that by them actually buying recyclables from buyback centers and buyback centers then paying collectors, it means that those collectors and buyback centers are actually getting money from up the value chain from the recyclers. So this is also part of our work, a very important part of our work, and this is just a reflection of our 2022 data, because that's the last audited data that we had. But we partnered with various stakeholders to support 104 projects and initiatives all across the country. Through these interventions in 2022, we unlocked 10,620 tons of post-consumer PET across the country. And our buyback center support is also contributed to sustaining just under 2,000 employment opportunities and just under 15,000 waste picker livelihoods. An important part of the work that we do is training and mentorship and sponsorship of equipment and infrastructure for the informal sector, and also for the formalized SMME sector, so that they can move their businesses up the value chain and grow and create further employment while cleaning up the environment. So these are some of the trailers and trolleys that we have sponsored, and some pictures of the training that we've done. And we also work with consumer education and awareness. So here are a few of the projects that we've embarked on. The first one here is the educational content, which is CAPS aligned, which Kath will speak about a bit later. But we worked with the Pick and Pay Schools Club to create content for 500 schools across South Africa. We also create specific consumer campaigns with specific messaging about collecting and recycling. So this one was about collecting PET, and that's the picture of Willie Ramoshaba, who is from Tina Vuyo Recycling. So we use a lot of people in our communications to show the actual people behind the value chain. And we also have a WhatsApp for Business platform. I'm not sure if any of you know about that, but you can add PEDCO to WhatsApp and then ask questions, and it's an automated system both for collectors and for consumers. And last but not least, we're very proud of our 9-episode docu-series, which shows what actually happens behind the collection and recycling value chain. We went on a journey and filmed a short series to show you the collectors, the buyback centers, and some people that are actually in corporate that contribute positively to the collection and recycling value chain. And this is just to show specifically some of the work that we do in schools. We support schools with infrastructure and equipment so that they can actually start collecting valuable recyclables and implement separation at source programs in schools. So these are just some of the examples. From Kroonstad to Devland to Potchefstroom, our support is countrywide. And they've really enabled these schools to become hubs for collection and recycling, and they are then able to go home. The kids are able to go home and share the information with their parents, which is really great. So that is the end from me, and I'm now going to hand over to Sia to please take us through his presentation. Over to you, Sia.
Thank you very much, Cara, and good morning to our participants this morning. So basically, this is our presentation from the Giving the Wings Foundation. The Giving the Wings Foundation was established in 2014. This was after 2 years of myself volunteering in Gqeberha Township Schools, where I really got to see and understand some of the challenges that schools were facing. And one of those challenges was a very poor waste management system. Schools would accumulate a various number of recyclable materials, and they were just either burned in illegal dumping sites or burned in some spots in the schools. So As a volunteer at that time, I really wanted to play a role in, number one, the waste management crisis, and also in the food security challenge that schools in township faced at that time. So after doing some research, some friends and I established a nonprofit organization, and we named it the Giving the Wings Foundation. So yes, we set up a formal business in 2014, which is a nonprofit company. And our three pillars that we focus on are food security, recycling as a lifestyle in schools and in township communities, and environmental education in general, which focuses a lot on climate change awareness. And also, it has a circular economy approach. So how we structure our work and projects in schools is recycling is the foundation. Then it leads to other programs that can develop from that recycling. For example, if we'll start a recycling program in a school, we'll set up little goals as to how we can partner with the recycling collectors, buyback centers, to accumulate a little budget and a little income for other projects that can take place in schools. This really does require a very committed outlook, because recycling isn't something that we do really to make a fortune for schools, but it's something that schools and communities can establish to get a project going and to get a community-focused project going. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. A little bit about myself. I am the founder and CEO of the organization. I am an environmentalist. Well, people have named me an environmentalist at this stage. And also, I always like mentioning this because people always feel, whenever I speak to people about this work, people always feel that they need some kind of special qualification or degree. I have a writing degree from Rhodes. I don't have any environmental type of background, but through my organization, I've been able to accomplish with my team quite a lot. That's just a little bit of information about myself. So how do we work with schools and what do we do in schools? First of all, we work with 24 schools in the Gqeberha Nelson Mandela Bay community. When I say 24 schools, those are the schools that we have adopted and we visit on a daily basis. Those are our schools where we have set up clubs, set up programs that are independent and that the school community owns. Not to say that we don't work with other schools, but in our register log over the schools, the number of schools that we have is 24. We try to add a school every year. Hopefully, we will be adding 2 more schools next year to our register. And what we expect from schools really is a project that is going to be led and owned by the learners of each school. Learners have to participate either in the collection of recyclable materials, in the sorting of recyclable materials. A lot of time is spent sorting materials at school. What we must remember is in the township schools, you'll find that an illegal dumping site has developed just opposite a school. And then the school has to play a role in maintaining and controlling that illegal dumping site, because Nelson Mandela Bay is a very windy city. And if you have a dumping site next to a school, you'll find that a lot of that waste is driven by Mother Nature herself into the school environment. So the school does the community a favor by playing a role in conducting cleanups, in collecting materials from said illegal dumping sites. And it's a nice way to generate small income for the school. So learners are encouraged to form eco clubs, which we mentor for a period of 12 months every year. And we work with kids during break times and after school. We will conduct little cleanups with kids, and we'll collect your PET, we'll collect your various recycling materials that are collected at school for the benefit of the school. We require whole school involvement. What does this mean? For a successful school program, you want every single person in the school to be active in collecting materials. So I always like teachers who will, for example, go off to a workshop for 2 or 3 days to come back from the workshop with a black bag filled with bottles they collected at the workshop. If the teachers are going to a funeral and their personal capacity during weekends, for example, I expect them to come back on the Monday with the bottles they collected at the funeral. It's always a nice challenge to pit the teachers against each other, to see who brings back recyclables from their personal engagements that they have outside of the school environment. It's always nice to see the teachers competing and being competitive in that way. Schools are really required to keep a track record of the work that they do. So each school really keeps a portfolio of evidence as to what they get up to every year. What we want to see in schools is the transformation from a school that really didn't know anything about recycling to a school that can showcase at the end of the year the amounts of recyclables they collected, the types of recyclables they collected, the impact that they've had on their surrounding community, as well as the income that schools have generated through their recycling. When we started in 2014, our schools were able to take care of little items like the phone bill, buying paper, for example, through the income that they've generated through their recycling. It does become sort of a small business for schools where you see that certain things are taken care of now through the income that is generated through the recyclable materials. Also, what we do is we do tap into curriculum. So we do sit down with teachers and plan how can we integrate the work that we're doing outside with the learners into what's going on in the classroom, how we can link the work to actual curriculum so that kids are able to take the work home. When the learner is doing homework at home and they are talking about what they're doing at school, it spreads the message to the family, it spreads the message to the home, and eventually throughout the community. So there are keys to a successful program in each school. Every single school that we work with is different, but there are keys of success that we try to instill in schools. Our approach for schools in our program is what we refer to as a circular economy program. We want schools to recycle in order for them to establish food gardens in their school, because again, we deal with communities that are facing food security challenges and food security issues. So when we create a recycling program, the goal is for that recycling program to, in some way, fund the establishment of a food garden, whether we are buying seeds or seedlings or tools with money generated from recycling. There has to be a circular movement of the project in the school. So a practical example is we'll have a target of from January to March, which is the first term of every school year, we will have a very, very strict and ferocious collection plan and system. Every child, every term, every day comes to school with recyclable materials, and this is collected, and we'll have a target of saying we want an X amount of waste material collected. This will then be sold to a recycler, and then we'll see how much the school has generated. And those funds then become the foundation of another project, a food gardening project in the school. Again, we want the learners to lead here, and we want learners to bring new ideas to the school as to how we can best achieve this. What also helps is creating partners outside of schools that help with the collection of PET and other recyclable materials. In our instances in the township, we work a lot with, number one, parents who probably don't even have kids in the schools that we work with. But what is also prevalent in our townships, unfortunately, is your shebeens, your taverns. We invite them to have a proactive contribution to schools by offering up their recyclable materials. And we see a lot of this in our successful schools, where small businesses are working with schools in the collection of materials. So the challenges that we come across, one of the main challenges that we personally have experienced is a very political climate. So litter in the Nelson Mandela Bay a couple of years ago became very political, where we found that politicians, from your ward councillors right up to the mayor's office sometimes, uses litter in a political game to win people over. So for example, we've had programs and projects that we've introduced to ward councillors, and ward councillors have told us, no, this won't work in our ward because it will clash with ABC. And you'll find that it's a political game which we as an organization don't really entertain. The reason we stick to schools is because schools are very neutral places. And, schools in our region don't allow politicians and politics to be involved. So schools are very neutral, and they really only focus on the child and a program that will benefit learners. The second challenge that we have is a lack of knowledge from communities. A lot of work and a lot of awareness still remains necessary. There's never going to be a point where we say we've done enough education programs in township communities. That's not a real statement. Lack of knowledge in our communities, especially in the elderly community, the people who are not on social media, who are heading households in our communities, they have a lack of knowledge as to what recycling is, how we recycle, what we recycle. People don't know their buyback centers, for example. So we will always need to drive awareness in communities. And we do this through being active in schools and creating programs in schools that invite the outside community. Then that leads you to another challenge, which is the non-responsiveness, where when you deliver this awareness and you deliver this knowledge of this is what recycling actually is, and this is what recycling is not. Recycling is not a program that will allow you to buy a Mercedes-Benz or a truck in about 2 or 3 weeks, which is, a common conception that when you collect all of these products, you will become very wealthy very quickly. Then you receive a non-responsiveness. When people realize, this is actual work, you actually have to sort these things by color. You actually have to separate and clean. And one of our biggest challenges is the pilchard can or the Amazi bottle, where people, when you tell them, please wash your products out before you send them to the collector, then it becomes sort of like, I don't want to have to do a lot of work with this. So the non-responsiveness comes in that way, where people find it very challenging, according to some people, and then they step away and they back away from the work. This is a lifestyle type of program that we drive in schools. It's something that we want young kids and young people in our communities to approach as sort of a second nature or as a lifestyle. Municipal setbacks are a major challenge for us in terms of getting, for example, we'll set up proposals and programs that that we believe the municipality can assist in driving and communicating to the community. And you will find a lot of red tape and you'll find a lot of setbacks. And you'll find that a lot of programs don't take off once you've put them on the table of the municipality. And so we tend to work very independently with our schools. And we've achieved a lot of successes, though, through that way. Starting your own project, believe it or not, I do receive a lot of questions around this. People are always interested in starting their own programs in schools. And what I always say is, if you want to work with or rather, if you want to work in a community-driven project, schools are always your best start. Schools are always interested, especially your township schools are always interested in programs that, number one, will keep their kids busy, and that will, number two, bring a positive aspect to school life for the kids and the educators involved. So always approach schools first and see how interested schools will be in your program. Some schools are not interested in recycling work and recycling programs. So always approach your schools and do your homework as to how responsible each school will be. Whatever program that you are bringing up, the school has to own. And what I mean by the school is from your headmaster to your teachers to the cleaning staff to the learners. Every single person needs to be involved. There are some schools, I'll meet kids at the mall and then with their parents when they're doing their shopping. And kids will come up to me and say, you were at my school driving this program and we're doing XYZ now. So you want a school that is going to own the project and that will also have ideas of their own. For me, the biggest learnings, I've put a picture here of one of our food gardens, but this is for me, it just displays what is possible in our schools. Starting something with nothing. We started our organization with just 300 Rand in the bank. We didn't have any funding for the first 3 years. And we did literally everything with money from recycling. We didn't have any backing. We didn't know Petco at that point. And for the first 3 years, we literally did everything from nothing. So what I know for sure is that projects of this nature are possible, and it is possible to build something with absolutely nothing. When working with partners, your first partner, if you're going to be working with the schools, is the school itself. And having a vision of building something and creating a portfolio for your organization, for yourself, and for the school as well is very important. So when we walk and step into a school, we have a vision of not only growing our organization, but growing the name and reputation of that school as well. So the biggest learning is growth. The biggest learning is knowing that you can start something with nothing and make it into something incredible. Partnerships are very important. One of our biggest partners is Petco. Petco has been very much involved in the growing of our organization, as well as one of the speakers later on, Catherine, through her and the Pick and Pay School Club, have been wonderful partners for us. And they've helped us grow our message and our work in schools. Partnerships help with the sustainability, but also the involvement of your school and your kids. Your kids must own the program. They must own it when you, as the driver or the organization, is not present in the school. They must still be able to continue with the work. And that's it from us. Thank you so much. I look forward to your questions at the end. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you so much for your time, Sia. And well done for all the work that you've done. It's been great to see how you've grown. So yeah, that is it. I'm going to hand over to Emmy.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you so much to Petco to invite us to present this morning. And today I'm going to talk about what we do. So my name is Emmy Maega from the Waste Trade Company. The company has been around for 25 years, since 1998. We specialize in recycling and waste management solutions, and I run the school's recycling project, which works with NPOs, creches, primary schools, high schools, tertiary institutions, small corporates, and basically everyone who wants to play their part in recycling. So just a little bit of about the company. We are a level 2 BEE company, and we're proudly South African. We're mainly situated here in the Nelson Mandela Bay, but we also serve areas such as Uitenhage, Dispatch, Kirkwood, and Addo. We don't have branches around further areas in the Eastern Cape, but everyone can find us here in Nelson Mandela Bay. We've got our main depot here in the Nelson Mandela Bay Deal Party, where we collect from all the businesses, including your industrial clients, your dairy clients, motor industry, schools, churches, and we bring all the waste here, and especially the PET that we collect from schools, as well as people from the townships and NPOs that also run soup kitchens and buyback centers and swap shops. So our vision is to act responsibly, ensure that we try to save as much as we can by motivating, educating, and encouraging people to handle their waste in a proper manner, meaning that they should learn not to buy unnecessary things and try to reduce as much waste that they throw away from going to landfills and diverting it our way so that it can be recycled. So we encourage people to recycle as many things such as paper, plastic, cans, cardboard, and at other parts we also collect glass, but we do not really specifically specialize in the glass, but we do encourage people to bring it our way, and then we share it with our business partners or our stakeholders that are in the waste management industry. Right, so as part of the school's recycling project, what I do is I visit schools, get them on board for recycling. We provide education. We go out and do waste audits. So you might see me running around at a school digging in bins, but we're actually looking at what are the types of waste that the schools actually throw away that can be retrieved and be converted into recyclable items that can become something else instead of being thrown away or burnt. So most of the schools that we work with, we find that some of them that were not recycling with us before usually just throw all their waste product and recyclable items in one bin. But when we go to the schools and we show them that actually these books can be recycled, and this is where you find money when you separate your black and white paper from your color paper, as we know that white paper has got more value and can be recycled several times compared to color paper. We also show them the different plastic bottles, because there's a whole lot of plastic, 7 and more, that we can recycle, but we focus mainly on PET bottles because schools got canteens, others have got feeding schemes where they buy stuff to feed the learners and other learners bring lunch from home, so they get educated when they learn the different types of plastics that they can recycle, especially PET, which can be problematic. So we find that some other schools don't get the difference between your PET green and your PET brown and why they should be separated. So we do that. I go to the schools, bring samples and do a little bit of show and tell so that they can learn the difference and the value of the different colored plastic bottles. We also encourage them to remove the lids so that those two can be counted as a different item for recycling, because there is value for it when we collect it from schools. So in that way, schools are able to fundraise a bit, be able to put in some stationery or help for their school activities like their farewells at the end of the year or their big award ceremonies in the last quarter. And some of the teachers, when they recycle with the learners, they actually use their own raised money to do excursions or visit us or take the children out. I know that Sia also sometimes spoils the learners and gives them some pizza and ice cream. So that's another way to motivate learners and incentivize them so that it becomes fun and not too complicated or difficult for them. So I just want to show you a little video, I think, if we can play that. But before I get to that, I want to just tell you about a few things that we do under the schools program as a way to educate learners and get them involved. So firstly, what we found was a bit of a challenge is that when we approach schools ourselves, a principal is the point of access, or we meet with the secretary and then we approach the principal and present how the school's project works, but then they might allocate a teacher that maybe teaches some of the environmental aspects or the life orientation, which also includes some of the health and environment and recycling activities. But if the teacher is not motivated or has got a lot of work outside recycling, the school project for recycling might fail. So we always encourage the school to find someone who's got passion for it, so that even when they're working with learners, because we always encourage learners to form enviro clubs, so that the club will become like recycling prefects at the school. And to take it even further from that, we also encourage each school in each classroom to have a dedicated recycling prefect. So in that way, each classroom will be able to look after their recycling before it's taken outside of the classroom and taken to the recycling pickup point, where our trucks and trailers go to pick up the recycling, so that it gets there and it's sorted. But in instances where a school is not really motivated, or there's no one who's really dedicated to running the project internally, I will try and liaise with the schools in the forms of social media through WhatsApp, because that's the easiest for me, since some of the schools do not have internet access and some of them are always in the classroom and we do not want to disturb them during their educational hours. So I will always liaise with the teachers. And if it's not a teacher, I will ask the school to maybe appoint one of the maintenance officers to work with a small group, or in the case of SIA, it will be someone from outside who is running a program, so that they can let us know when they're ready for a collection or an activity that we can do. So at schools, to motivate them and get them on board for recycling, we offer assembly or recycle talks. These are usually done in the mornings, so that maybe if the school meets for assembly every second week or once a week on a Monday or Friday, we would dedicate that time and be there on time at the school, so that we have a 30 to 40 minute section where we explain what recycling is about, why it's important to recycle, and what financial rebates the school can get to fundraise for much needed aid at the schools. And we also do other activities, such as offering schools depot tour. I always encourage the school teachers to pick or maybe watch out for their best or hard workers in the recycling project. So if they've got, for example, a group of 20 learners that are working as or acting as recycling prefects, then they will identify those that are very dedicated and passionate, or are always going forward, or are always available to assist, and reward them by bringing them for a depot tour at our company. And then we show them around, from how their waste is collected, how we weigh it, and where it goes after that. So the children get an insight to see, all right, so this is why the waste trade company usually asks us to separate the different items, because we've got a depot, and each item that we collect from client has got a designated area, so that nothing is piled up in one heap. And then that can actually cause a nuisance, and it's very unhygienic. And maybe, who knows, something can just pop out of there that might have been hiding there for months. So we encourage schools and explain to them why, so that they can understand that recycling is separate from dumping everything that you collect at home and put it in one bin. All right. We also do cleanup campaigns. We've just held one last month at Suncorp by the Pine Lodge, where we work with Suncorp, and they invited the Motherwell Conservancy team, and also some schools from Motherwell that were also participating under Patricia and the Zwartkops Conservancy. So depending on what we are doing, we've moved away from just picking up waste, but we try to encourage learners and the community to get involved when we do cleanups, so that in the process, we teach them through a two-bag system to separate recyclable waste from non-recyclable waste. And then it gets further separated by our team and those that are available to volunteer to help on the day of the cleanup, so that there is value that is derived from all the items that we've collected through the cleanup. We also get involved with our corporate partners or stakeholders that we work with. For example, your Isuzus, your VWs, and MBDA, which is the Madiba Bay Development Agency, where we actually work and do exhibitions, and sometimes we get involved with the schools when they've got their market days, and we go and exhibit what the school has done for the year through recycling, or also encourage through events that we get invited to for waste management, and showcase what our school's project is about. So that's the way we get the message across to our communities and schools and potential customers that are interested in recycling. Then we also get the schools to do competitions. Most of the time, it's about just to showcase which is the most recycling school. So what we do is we focus on the total number of the learners at the school divided by the average learners, and then we look at the volumes and divide it by the number of learners, so that even if it's a small school or it's a big school, they on a same platform or opportunity, so that we just don't say we collected 3,000 kilograms at Kabiga Primary and then we collected 10 or 200 kilograms at maybe Elufefeni Primary School. But if the school is small but their recycling rate per learner shows that they're actually doing more than a school, then even that small school can win, depending on how much volume versus the number of learners is being collected at the school. Moving along to the next slide, I'm going to share a video. So that was it about the school's recycling project. When we go into schools, we get involved in a lot of activities. So from communities, from pre-primary schools to primary schools, from getting involved in public events where we actually collect and sort the recycling. We get involved in a lot in the name of waste management and reducing the impact that we have on environments as well as events. And the last event that we did was on the 21st of October with the Ebubeleni Music Festival, which is a national event showcasing national artists. And we had a mobile waste yard where my team and the subcontracted company was helping to collect and educate people, including the storeholders, how to dispose of their used water, used oil. So there's a lot of education that we do. It's not just limited to schools and communities, right? So the second part is the Pakaching Mobile Recycling Unit, which will work with Polyco, another stakeholders of ours. We applied for a mobile unit with a trailer that drives around in different communities collecting items, as you can see from the far left photo, where people can queue up and bring recyclables, which are then weighed on spot and get their volumes and their monies processed by e-wallet, and they can exchange their vouchers or cash their vouchers at participating retailers, including Pick n Pay, Usave, and Checkers and ShopRite. But what we have done, we realized that one of the challenges we were experiencing is that we were becoming targets of crooks or robbers in the townships. So other people would love to get a lot of money paid. Like Sia said, that people thought that recycling would be a quick way to get money and be rich or be able to purchase big things, but they actually have to accumulate volumes and follow the recycling guides of sorting the different items, separating them, flattening things like plastic bottles, especially their big PET bottles, and flattening cardboard boxes so that they can accumulate more volumes on those items to get a better financial rebate per item. But then we would find people that would hide things like bricks or refuse right at the bottom of the bag. So when we move from the site, if we haven't checked the bottom of the bag, then when it comes to the depot, after we have processed maybe their payment, we find out maybe 40% was actually general waste that shouldn't be in there. So we moved from that, and we do offer people free bulk collection services, even if it's from their door to door, so that at least we are giving them a 48-hour notice or 24 to 48-hour notice before a payment can be done, which will allow us to actually collect items, especially things like your paper and PET bottles, where they can sneak bricks when it comes through our depot, so that then when we have collected the item, it gets weighed here at our depot, and they empty out the bag to see if there's no unwanted items such as stones or refuse and bricks. Then when we do see that item, we do show them the total volume that was captured, and we weigh that item separately to show what the kilogram of that, and we minus it from their volumes. All right. So we've done a lot of collections, and we do encourage new schools that are not part of our recycling project to also sign up with packaging if they choose to be independent from sharing their banking account with what the school actually generates for the educational purposes, so that it can be used separately if it's a small Enviro club with a teacher, or if they just want to use a different option and not wait at the end of the month for the schools to be paid into their bank account, right? So we've already collected about 1,500 tons, and we've paid more than 102,048 clients, and it's still growing every day. So we do get companies that also sponsor schools. For example, we encourage schools when we visit them that if you have parents of learners that work at big factories, or they'll work at law firms, or a place that generates a lot of recyclable items, we do encourage them to recycle and call us. We will collect at no cost from that client, and then what we collect gets paid into the school's recycling account. And at the end of the month, we generate a report that will reflect that on this day we received a collection of these items that was collected from this client, and we reference the client's name on the last column so that the school can see who actually contributed towards their recycling and the financial rebate that has also been sponsored to them through that recycling. Right. So a little bit about our buyback centers. So over here on this slide, I'm sure you noticed in the video there was a picture of this little girl that popped up. So this is a buyback center that we work with in the Seaview area here in Gqeberha. There is a very poor informal settlement there, and we've got Penny Anderson and her husband, Leon, who started a recycling buyback center there, and we've been supporting them. Eventually, they retired and gave the project over to a lady called Mpumi Velem. So she still recycles. This little child was about 5 years or 4 years over here, which was about 4 years ago, when she was recycling and already guarding her recycling, because she already knew that this is already value. And you can see them there sorting and flattening their plastic bottles for recycling. And this last slide here, it shows you that in her little box, she went past all the toys, all the sweets and goodies that a little child would go for, and she actually bought a tin of Pilchard. So what she brought in for recycling, she exchanged for a tin of Pilchard. So it already teaches them life skills, and they're already learning responsibilities through recycling. So there's a lot of education that goes through that. So if anyone is interested to learn more about the Waste Trade Company and our school's recycling project, you can visit us or follow us on these following platforms. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, and on the website. Our website is thewastetradecompany.co.zn. I'm hoping to hear any questions from anyone, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Emmy. That was very interesting. And thank you for your time and for the work that you do. I'm now going to hand over to Kath, please.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be able to present to you guys today. I feel like my presentation is actually a summary of everything that both Sia and Emmy have actually been chatting about, so it'll be quite interesting. I'm just going to kickstart because I know that Cara is going to go, Catherine, you don't even have time here. So we are busy with a strategy for one of the municipalities here in Johannesburg. So I'm Johannesburg based, and I work with Pick n Pay. But one of the things that Barry mentioned in a meeting was you don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. And sessions like this kind of empower you to understand. Sometimes you think you know what's going on and actually you don't, or there is a need for you to find out more so that you can take better action and assist. So we're part of the Pick n Pay School Club team. It's been around for 20 years. And we have over 3,155 schools registered with us. They're all geolocated around Pick n Pays. And we can use the Pick n Pay infrastructure to support the local schools. We've had a collaboration with Petco for the last 4 years. We're going into our 5 years now. I'm leaving this link in here because we'll be sharing the presentation afterwards, but you can actually watch the video just to get a better understanding of what it is that we do from an educational point of view. I think the thing is we're a part of the ESG team of Pick n Pay, the sustainability team, CSI team, and we have to align to the Sustainable National Goals. And of that, we're number 4 on this list. But through the different types of work that we've been doing in the school environment, we actually tick off on all of these goals over here. And even stakeholder engagement is why collaborations like this or why seminars like this are actually so important. I'm not even going to go into that. We have won an award in the sustainability space just for the type of work that we're doing. But this is probably the best screen to show everything that we develop. So we have to date developed over 323 tons of educational content that then gets disseminated into these schools. Schools don't pay a cent for it. And we partner with clients like Petco to be able to provide this content to the schools for free. The content is specifically developed to align with certain outcomes and with certain themes that we want to share with the actual learners, but we also need to be able to share the progression. So what a child learns in grade 1 is not something that a child in grade 7 is learning. So there needs to be this level of understanding and a continuous talk about the actual educational content. So once we've boxed it, we actually send a team of what we call Box Squad members out into the school, which are youngsters that don't have work, that really want to give back to their community. They're community-based, and we give them a list of schools that they can go and present the content to and assist the teachers with that content. So this is what the content looks like for Petco that we've developed. You'll see that we do both a workbook for teachers that is a list of activities, and we'll supply them with an educational poster. So we work with the curriculum writers that write for the Department of Basic Education, and those curriculum writers will tell us, okay, this is where Petco sits in the South African curriculum. This is what a grade 1 teacher needs to tell or teach her child, and she's got so many hours in the classroom to do it. We'll then go, okay, Petco sits in brilliantly at this level, and especially in life skills for those specific grades. So you'll see I highlighted the area that we do, so the teachers know when it arrives at their school, this can work well for the life skills curricula. And then all the educational content is set out. Petco checks all this content to make sure, because they're an expert in the field, that we're bringing expert knowledge to teachers that wouldn't have known that content. What we realize, and I'm an ex-teacher, is that educational content in the curriculum kind of got stuck on certain themes because things change constantly. We're already making changes to books that we developed 3 years ago because there are specific changes that have happened in the industry in different life skills or different themes. So we are able to make changes. We make all of the content available on our school club website, so that any teacher can download it. Cora specifically, or Petco specifically, sends their content out to 300 of the 3,000 schools, or 500 of the 3,000 schools that we have on our database. And that's the other nice thing about working with an infrastructure like ours. You can say, I want this content to actually go to Quebec, I want it to, or to the Eastern Cape, to KwaZulu-Natal, to Western Cape, to GP, or I only want my content to go to the Free State. So you can segment the target in that way, and all of the content is then made available. So any school can go, I want free resources, tap into that, go and download any of the content that's in PDF content. You'll also notice that our content is black and white. Teachers are very sticky. They'll tell you, listen, we want colorful posters, but the books need to be in black and white because we don't want you to waste our ink when we're printing the activity sheets for the learners. What's nice is that a parent can also download it. And we've actually had a few people that are in the collection industry saying, we work with 17 schools here in Vosloorus, but we don't have content. Can we use your content? Then we'll go, yes, you can download it from the internet. If we also make an extra 200 copies of each of our books, so that, and posters, so that if a school actually comes to us and says, I need more, we can actually assist them with it, because we've got teams that go into the schools and help them. We also have a social media site. This social media site was created just during the year of COVID, because we realized, how are we going to continue talking to the parents and the teachers? So to date, we've got, we have actually over 90,000 already, but these are the audited stats, 89,612 followers, and that is against Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I have left the handles there in case you want to actually go and see what it looks like. But we use this as an extension of whatever we've created, and then remind the parents and the teachers these environmental days are coming up. Why don't you go and get that content there? Or here's a little bit of extra content, and then we only make it available online. So in a general month, any month on these social media sites, we have over 849 people clicking through and following us and downloading content from us. So it's a platform that runs parallel with what we do on a face-to-face level in the schools. This is our activation team. We have one in each region. So you can almost call them a regional manager. We call them SLOs, school liaison officers. And we have one in each province. And we try and connect with the schools in those areas to make it easy. We can also tap into any of the other programs that Petco is doing in the school space if they need assistance in any of those areas as well. So it's a nice plug and play. I've just left this in and said, why School Club? Collaborating with corporates and working together, like I work with SIA, is definitely more cost effective for people. It also allows you a better infrastructure to be able to say, let me share your content with other regions, because you'll know that, and SIA has already mentioned this, and so has Emmy, that schools want assistance. They want to be able to recycle, but they don't always have the infrastructure that supports them to do it. We also do extensive research. I think the big thing, and this is why Pick n Pay started the School Club program, when we started with it, the perception or the loyalty that the general consumer had out there for Pick n Pay wasn't very good. It was in its 50s somewhere. So I suppose it's good. That's like a 50% chance of loyalty. But after doing programs like School Club and sharing resource material that schools really want, it has moved it up to 89%, and it has literally stayed in the 90% zone for quite a few years now. Also, the likelihood and the perception of other clients or other sponsors that join us is also extremely high. So it is tracked. Everything that you have to do is tracked. Even Emmy mentioned it. You know exactly how many items you've collected, what you've given back to school. Anyone should be able to phone you and go, hey, what did you do over there? Also, we've done extensive research with the schools as well to go, what did you think of that content? Did it help you? Did it not help you? And we're very excited when teachers come back and say, and it's all in the 90%, listen, this content gave us additional general knowledge for our learners. It did help them with their marks, because in a normal classroom, you'll have children that are at a developmental level where they are higher than other children. So you need to give them additional stimulation. And a lot of the schools use the content for that. Other schools use it for additional resource material. Others use it as test sheet papers. Others use it as homework assignments, which we love, because that means our content is going home to the parent as well. So what I've seen works in the educational space is this triad of influence. You have to have all parties working together towards a common goal. So when you develop content, you're developing it for the teacher and the school, but then it filters down to the learner, and from the learner, it gets back to the parent. So your content needs to speak to all three of them all the time. What we generally find is in this learner space is that from the age of 3 right through to the age of 10-year-olds, you've got what we call pester power. Kids that will pester their parents when they learn things. Those are the kids that are probably pulling on their parents' shirts when they're in the center and they see and they go, that's the guy that was at my school, mommy. This is what he said. And they will tell you everything that he said. The same with Emmy's content. If Emmy's imparted knowledge, these children will tell them about it, especially if she brings a puppet or an interesting way to tell the story. So these are really good mediums to be able to use when you're educating people in the end zone. This is basically what it looks like. So we're not just an educational company or resource material company. That's just one aspect of it. We also actively get involved. And yes, this is Sia in the middle over here. We collaborate with him in the Eastern Cape area. But Pick n Pay generally does cleanups on a national level, and then we go and support them. You'll notice that we actually give out these recycled pencil bags from Viro Bonviro bag. They're KwaZulu-Natal based. One of those bags is actually created out of a PET bottle. And we do about 30,000 of those in a year that we go and give out to grade 4s. And then we also educate them about it. I always find it so interesting because learners, it's that thing of I know what you know until you know what you know that you don't know. So what you'll generally find is that learners will still think that environmental bag, the 30 centimeter pencil case, is plastic. And then we do this little test where we throw water in it and then it drips out. And then they're like, but why? It's plastic. And then we go, but this is where the education comes in, and they get super excited about it. And the reason why we use the grade 4s is because they're in that age group where they're considered the underdogs. They're not the juniors anymore, and they're not the seniors. So they get treated as the in-betweeners. So when you do something for them, you make them feel like the heroes, and then they listen and they go and impart knowledge and share. But then everyone else wants it as well. So Emmy actually mentioned it. Schools are competitive. Children are competitive. Teachers are competitive. So you do something where you create talkability around it. You'll also notice on top there that we do a tub collection for Danone. And that's because it is one of the items that you don't get a lot of value for when you try and sell it to a buyback center. So it tends to go to a landfill. And Danone is one of our clients, especially from a health point of view, because yogurt is something that's consumed at a very young age, up until, again, the age of 10 in the Pesta Power group. That's where it sits. But through this program, we've been able to collect over 500,000 of those tubs and actually make these Envirolite bricks made out of concrete. It's mixed with the concrete. The problem is that these are Gauteng-based people, so you can't work in a zone that's bigger than 46 kilometers. Otherwise, the exercise doesn't work. It becomes very expensive. But we've been able to build a library there. So this is what it looks like in field, and there is education. And you have to put a carrot, or you have to put an incentive in there for them to be able to do it, especially since you know that it doesn't, there is not a great value for it from a buyback. So it is about cleaning it and stacking it, and then collecting it and weighing it. And I must say, Emmy's actually spot on when she says people cheat the system sometimes. You can put little stones in between them when you're clipping them over there. So everything actually has to be weighed, and you actually have to unpack it and see that it's been done properly. So we have 2 levels where they check that the stuff is right before we actually confirm that is the weight that the school has actually done. So we also do per capita reach, because I don't think that it's fair for smaller schools that are in that 46 kilometer zone to compete with schools that have got 3,000 learners in it. So Tembisa schools that we work with have 3,000 learners, and they can collect these tubs very quickly. So it's interesting. You do per capita to make it fair for everyone. So this is another program that we helped an agency with, which was collecting bread packets. Bread packets are probably one of the fastest things that you can collect in a school because it is a daily consumption. That and chips packets are actually very interesting. But bread packets move like this. So you can bring in big numbers there. On this specific project, there was 296 packets that were collected in a 10-week period. We work on 10 weeks. That's a term. So schools will be active for a first term 1 or term 2 or term 3. You never do projects in schools in term 4. That's actually a recognition month, and schools are wanting to finish now. So teachers don't want to be disturbed. One of the reasons, and I said I won't probably work with these guys again because they can't tell me what they did with the packet afterwards. And as a consumer representing Pick n Pay in the market, you need to be able to say, we have removed this from the landfill. You can actually do things with the plastic bags. There are ways to recycle it and then to give back to the schools with that recycled material as well. But this specific agency didn't do that. And I like to close the loop. It's exactly what Sia said when he presented. We also work with and assist huge districts. So we work with the municipality in the Capricorn district. He has over 57 schools. They do a Cleaner School Challenge. Brilliant, absolutely phenomenal. These teachers, they choose the best. There were 4 districts within this municipality, and then they compete against each other. So it goes back to what Emmy says. If you're competing, you push it a lot more, but they're very well supported, and they recognize those learners, and they've actually found people in the communities that can support them. So that's part of recognition. We do this recognition program, and you'll see the children are turned around because of POPI. You can't just take photos of children and think you're going to post them. It's illegal. So an unless their parents have given us a photo or that teacher has signed a release form to say that I can use her photo in my presentations, it's not legal. So we're very sticky on how we communicate or how we work in schools. We actually do extensive research in the schools that we actually work with. And here is a list of the top 7 things that schools actually want. So the biggest one there is donations and sponsorships. And that is why they will probably collect, because they're looking for any way of being able to bring in additional income for their school. Number 2 on that list is food. So we do a big driver with Feed the Nation, with child-headed families, to be able to support them. And it's exactly what Emmy said. They will exchange that for a vegetable garden so that they can feed their children, or they will exchange that so that they can get the sardines, or they can get what it is that you're offering on that side. So food is a big exchange commodity that you use in this channel because there's such a big need for it. And this is why Petco does this, is because you have educational material and programs. It's number 3 on this list of what schools want in South Africa. And then equipment, maintenance, and infrastructure is another one. And it's very interesting. Even from a bathroom point of view, that's why Unilever runs these bathroom programs, because there's a need for it. Then consumables and clothing, and then recycling sits there in the middle of it just pops up. They do recycling. And then you can further break down what do they actually want from that recycling, or what do they actually get from it. They want bins. They want you to donate your waste to the school. So it's exactly what Emmy said. If there's a parent that's in a law firm or in a retailer and they've got all these extra things that they're collecting, they want that to come to their school so that they can recycle it and get the money benefit from it. They actually need rubber gloves. You wouldn't think it, but I actually looked on every single photo that both Sia and Emmy presented, and the kids are always wearing gloves there, because that is the rule of when you're picking up rubbish or when you're recycling. Incentives for recycling is what they want. The need for establishing or with current to support them with current recycling programs. They want more content. They want recycling content. Petco has actually been invited by a few other brands that have said, listen, we're going to start a website. We need your content, because what are we offering to parents or teachers when they come here? And then they want more programs, which is exactly what Emmy was saying, and they want talks. So creating these and putting it in a channel, then you're supporting the schools. And don't give schools what they don't want, because they're not going to use it and they're not going to support you. But if you go in and you say, listen, I know you need bins, and I know exactly what school is that told me that they need bins, then you can create a program around that supports them. So why schools recycle? I actually interviewed 80 schools coming into this that wanted the bins from the previous schedule, and we've left it with them for a year. And I went back and I said, okay, so why did you want to recycle? What was the reason? The one is to educate their learners. We have one school principal that was like, listen, yeah, he's so tired of them still throwing their papers on the ground. He doesn't understand. We're teaching them recycling. Why are they still throwing there? Come back and educate my kids some more. The other one is to look after and care for the environment. So you do have almost like what Sia said, the environmentalists that are out there. Teachers are also environmentalists. They're passionate about certain topics. And if you can find that passion teacher, then she's the perfect person to run these programs for you. They want to encourage the broader community to recycle. And Sia is also correct. It is not an easy task. They need extra funds. And I've actually put this based on their ranking. So if number 1 is on this list, that is the one thing why they do it first. Then they want to be able to clean their community or their environment. So there's a reason why they want it. They want to be dubbed as an eco school or an eco school. So they want the label to say that they're a green school, and some schools are better at it than others. They want to stop pollution. They want to reduce their carbon footprint. I only hear the word carbon footprint in higher LSM schools, schools that are on that level where they're understanding. They generally have an outsider coming in and actually running it for them or supporting them with it. And they have a directive to reduce their carbon footprint there. And then one of the ones that came up that was very interesting, and I've left it on here, is for safe communities. And it's something that I actually heard from Pick n Pay's distribution center. If you give me a pigsty, I'll behave like a pig. If you give me a castle, I'll behave like a king or a queen. So there are schools that also believe that if you can keep your community clean, your school clean, what you're giving to them and how you're presenting it, you will get a different behavior that comes through from those children. So these are what these 80 schools said that they struggle with. And some of them feel like a summary of what Sia and Emmy said. Storing the recycled materials is a big issue in schools. the idea that you have some companies that come in and they're not competent and they're not consistent, they'll only come every 4 months, then where do the schools actually put these items? Then it starts becoming untidy. And Sia is so on point when he says, and then the winds come and it's a mess. So some schools specifically don't want to do the recycling anymore because their system isn't right to be able to control what they're collecting. Then they say the communities are not interested. And if they can't get the communities interested, it makes it a very slow, tedious process. And the community stops with the minute they hear, it's work, and you're not going to get the money that you want. Then learners placing the wrong items in the wrong bins. It just makes work for the teacher or the people that are supporting on the other side. And they're saying that's part of education. If you can teach this continuously to separate, and actually it's exactly what Emmy said too, you actually need to push those bottles together. That's education. Transporting the waste is an issue. A lot of schools don't have an outside company that does it. They have a parent that comes in, and then it becomes an expensive exercise. Getting everyone on board to benefit from recycling, it is a habit changer, and it takes time to do things like this. They need someone to come and collect the waste, and this is where the Emmys of the world are super important. But that will only work in the area where Emmy has an infrastructure, and Emmy's only working in a certain space. That's why you have to collaborate with other partnerships that are going, listen, yeah, I've got these 17 schools, you've got those 18 schools, I'm going to do these 20 schools, but together we're doing 60 schools in one community. That is brilliant. And then the other one is learners do not participate in recycling despite attempts to educate them. And timeous collection of recycle goes back to the point number two there. And then parents not bringing the right recycled items. So now you do have the parents involved, but they're just taking everything that was at their home and they're just chucking it back to the school. They're not educated to understand what it is that they need to be able to give to you. So what are the school's advice? Because you can look at all the negatives, but there's always an opportunity for how do you fix it? So what can they teach us? And these are some of the things that the schools have said. You need to have a plan and you need to get people involved. And Sia actually said it. Everyone needs to get involved. You need to get the buy-in from the principal, the teacher, everyone else on that committee. You need to form a committee and assign specific roles. If you don't have a specific outcome, you're not going to achieve the objective. You need to work together as a team and encourage learners. So I love the fact that there's recognition for the learners. Whether you do it in a simple certificate, it's the cheapest way to do it, but it's got the biggest value for any child that's involved there. Then you get all learners involved. You can't just say the little grade 3s are going to do this, because if the other grade 3s are picking up all the things and all the other kids are throwing it down, then they're like, why? What am I doing this for? No one else is even trying to help me. Get the parents involved. Have a purpose. You'll see there's a few of them that say that. Take pride in a clean environment. Remind the learners every day. I like this gentleman said, you place posters around the classrooms. You tell them the whole time. You tell them these are the triangles that you can do, because it sinks in. It's that I see it every day. Why do you think people put billboards up? It's expensive. It's better to give people dustbins. And then try and keep encouraging learners to participate in the recycling. I love this. Start small, grow it big, but don't give up. It's not going to work the first time around. They say it. The schools actually tell you, you're going to keep on making mistakes, but don't give up, because then you're never going to actually achieve what you want to do. And then the last one is from that school principal. He says, you recycle. It's the best way to keep your environment clean. It's and safe. And it's the best way to raise some funds for your school and to teach children responsibility. And Emmy said that in her presentation at the end. She said, it creates a responsibility. There's a responsibility that you teach kids by doing this. So you've heard about Quebec Primary School because both of the lovely people before me mentioned them. And the reason why they mentioned is because they have a green club, an eco club. So this is a group of children that is their role at their school. Like you'll have prefects that do library duties. You have prefects that actually do scholar patrol. You actually have prefects in some schools, and this school does it best. So when I was a teacher, if you wanted to do a discipline school or discipline program in your school, you look at all the other schools and you say, who are the top 5 schools that have got the best discipline? And you go and interview them and you find out what are they doing, because they're in the community. It's the same type of community members. Why are they getting it right and we're not getting it right? And then you take I learned that from that school. I've learned that. And you create your own little program that will fit brilliantly in your system. So Gqeberha is one of those dynamic schools. We actually have, I actually asked them to share how do they do it. And I've summarized it here for you as a one-pager, just easier than reading a whole list of things like this. But it starts with a teacher. If you don't have a champion teacher, nothing's going to work in the school. You can't even kickstart it. Then the champion teacher has to find friends that are going to help her do it because she needs support. She can't do it by herself. And that's where a lot of schools make the mistake. They'll give it to the young teacher that's arrived over there. She is passionate, but she can't do it by herself. So you need at least another 5 support teachers to be able to assist her. Once you've got your team and you've got your teachers and they're excited, then you're going to approach the learners. But you're going to need about 15 to 20 learners to be part of the club because you can't do a little once off. You also can't do a group where you've got 65 or 100 children because you're not going to be able to take them to places and connect and do things. And then it's a huge job to control. Because if you take a school that's got 3,000 learners in it, 60 kids to manage after school and do things becomes big. But if these little champions can have their little champions and you give them roles and responsibilities, they'll actually be brilliant at it. Then you have to give them the job description. You have to show them how they're going to keep a track record, because how are you going to evaluate them at the end of the year? You want to be able to say, this is my prefect of the year or environmental prefect. You actually get these badges. You can create your own badge. It doesn't even have to be a physical badge. It can be whatever you dub them to be, but create something that gives them the recognition, because I belong. This is what I want to do. You can't start a recycling program if you don't have the bins. And you saw the number one thing schools ask for are bins, and these things get stolen. Especially if you don't have proper fencing around there, especially the light ones, and they've got wheels, it's very easy to move them out. What I've noticed is that Impact has got the cheapest bins. You can get them in sets of 12, and even the little wheelies at the bottom, or the little wheels, are made out of recycled material, and they'll distribute or deliver to your region. One of the things that the schools actually, or this school specifically, says is you need to label the bins and show that they are used for different things. This one's for glass, this one's for paper. So glass is actually the one commodity that you get the most money from what I understood, but it also is something that you won't generally just find in a township, because it's collected very well, unless the kids are bringing it from home. And then there has to be management systems around it, because there is safety aspects that you need to consider. So once you've got your bins, now you're ready. Then you have to look for, who is this outside group, or where are you taking this actually to? Who's the person who's going to help you? They are the Emilys of the world. You need a collector. And you have to decide what it is. Sorry, that's the second part. You first have to decide what it is you're going to collect. What works for your school? Does glass work for your school? Does this work for your school? Does where can we actually get the paper out here? Is it something that we want to collect? And once you've decided what you're going to collect and how you're going to plan that, then you get your collector involved, because then you'll know this guy actually collects paper, this guy actually collects glass. So Gqeberha actually has about 5 different people that they tap into. One is specific for glass, this one is specific for this. So they have people coming in and they've got a little system going. So that's why they're successful. They have built an infrastructure, and they didn't get it right in year one. I want to note it. It has come over the years. Some of these schools that we interviewed have been running recycling programs for 15 years. Some only started last year because they see there's a need for it. Then the second last point is you need a vision. If you don't know where you're going and what your school stands for, and the kids aren't going to leave papers laying around, that is the vision that you need, because it has to be sucked up into the whole group. And this is where SIA is brilliant. Everyone believes SIA can get everyone on the same page, and we can work towards a common goal. And when they start seeing results, they're big believers. But SIA needs to be in there to make it work. He needs to go and support them. And then the last one is acknowledgement. You need to, at the end of the year, say, well done for this. And I must be honest, my experience is that a lot of these programs work best in primary schools and not in high schools. High school has a different way that they like to do things. So this is my part of it. I spoke very fast. I should be in my 20-minute time. And I know we're going to go into the next one, Cara, which is got questions.
Thank you, Kath. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the presentation. I love that little thing. We're actually just updating our website at the moment, and I was going to ask you if we can have it sharing resources. So there are three questions here. The first one is from Machu. He says, "Hi, Sia. Looks like you've done some amazing work. What have some of your observations or learnings been with regards to non-recyclable waste in schools, for example, chip packets? Are schools responsive to reducing these, or have you encountered any solutions that can divert them from landfill?" I just want to say one thing here, Machu. I know that Sia does a big eco-bricking program, but all of the eco-bricks that they make are actually used within the school for the veggie gardens. So I just wanted to caveat that, because obviously a lot of people jump on the eco-brick train, but then they don't land up having somewhere to go. But Sia, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that about non-recyclable waste.
You've said it, Cara. We make a lot of eco bricks, but we use them to create things at the schools. For example, we have an eco brick wall, where we had a food garden and we had a challenge of the goats coming in, so we decided to build a wall. We've built benches for the kids to sit. We don't just make the eco bricks for the sake of making eco bricks. We make the eco bricks with an end goal of how we're going to use them. The chip packets and the sweets are the major challenge in the schools. Other than that, we'll unfortunately throw things away.
Emmy, thank you, Sia. Emmy, do you have anything else to add to that about non-recyclable waste?
Yeah, so as Sia says, because we also try to encourage schools not to really recycle those packages. I know that Belinda Clark and her partner, Johan, are busy with the research behind using chip packets, things like straws, non-recyclable plastic for eco bricks, but they're also going the route of using polystyrene, the chunky polystyrene, where I think they melt it and it becomes like an ice cream when they tap it out of a container, and then they mix all the different products to actually make firmer eco bricks, because collecting these unrecyclable or non-recyclable packets in a bottle is not always meeting the standard that the plastic bottle that is filled with these non-recyclable items should, in order to build an eco brick. So there are still research initiatives going around how to reuse these or repurpose them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Machu, I'm not sure if you're still on the line. I'm not sure if you want to add anything else to that, or ask any further questions. If you do, you can just pop it there. Okay. Yeah, so he said, we have also experienced similar issues with eco bricks in schools that haven't thought of an internal project to run, are faced with these piling up. So yeah, that's a big challenge that people have. Then Shireen asked, my question is also for Sia, has it been easier to work with primary or high schools?
It really depends on what you want to do. I've had tremendous successes with both primary and high schools. We work with more primary schools, but it really just depends on the project. The high school kids are more independent, and you really don't need to hold their hand throughout. Once you've established your program, they really own it. The primary schools, the kids really need more of your attention. We are very grassroots, so we are literally in the schools every day, which is, one of the perks of the job. But it really depends on what we're doing at a particular time. If a project wants you to be outside of the school or research-based, you want to work with your high school kids. The primary school kids are great for being included in projects that are requiring creating plays around the work and awareness and things like that. So it's really depending on what we want to achieve.
Thank you so much. Shireen, I hope that's answered your question. If you have any other further follow-up questions, please put them in the chat. And then the last one is from Alison. She says, very interesting, Catherine, and it's directed at me or Kath, but she says, do you know if there's a platform somewhere summarizing the contact details of all stakeholders preparing recycling-related educational material? So I know that we had a meeting on Western Cape RAG a few years ago to try and consolidate this, because I think it's one of the biggest challenges that we face is that there's so many people doing things, it's quite disjointed. And there's probably a lot of duplication happening actually when it comes to the creation of educational content. So I don't know of one offhand, Alison, unfortunately. Kath or Sia or Emmy, I don't know if you guys know, if you can input and help me here. I think Safripol at one point was speaking about creating a website where they were going to be collating a lot of content, but
they haven't done it yet.
They haven't done it yet. Okay.
They haven't launched because they wanted to use your content for that.
Yes.
Also, what we noticed, you shared a list with us once that we started phoning before we started phoning schools to understand what the issues were. And actually, after COVID, a lot of places closed. So the list actually needs to be cleaned up quite nicely. And maybe it is people like Emmy, maybe it is people like Sia, maybe it is people like you that actually do that. It's just that a lot of people try their luck at it, like Sia said, and then realize, oh, it's not as lucrative. I'm not going to get the BMW or the Mercedes Benz. And then they leave it. And they've started with it's like, whoa, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. But then when the reality checks in, and then they just leave. They don't tell schools that they've left. They just don't pitch anymore. And the schools become very negative around things like that. So we call them like little fly-by-night people. They come in and then they just disappear. So yeah, that's what we've experienced. But no, not that I'm aware of. I don't think that there's a one central list of people.
Okay.
It's a Petco thing. You can do it.
Just to add on to that as well, I'm not sure, like you are saying now, Shireen, perhaps on these websites, people can visit Petco where they can get something. I think there's also the Institute of Waste Management South Africa that they can also maybe check on there. I think they've got different branches for the different provinces. And also maybe try some stakeholders like Polyco, but Petco is one of them where they try to share information. And if we're on there, we will try to assist best we can, because we also find some people that try to be third parties in recycling, where because our school's recycling project is quite big. Like we've got Sia, where we work with him at some certain schools, especially in the townships, where he's able to tap in there and introduce other aspects that are related to the environment and not just recycling. So we're okay with that. But there's also some that like to copycat what we are doing. So it becomes quite a problem. They just see Sia going in there and they think they can do that. But at the end of the day, they want assistance from us. So you sometimes need to meet with these people or encourage them or refer them to other further institutions or stakeholders that can assist. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Emmy. Promise has just asked, is it possible to send contact details for our panelists? I'm not sure if you guys are comfortable to share your details. If you'll just pop them in the chat for Promise, please. And then last comment from Shireen is, thank you. I want to start recycling in my community and will approach the primary schools. And Shireen, please also feel free to contact Petco. It's just info@petco.co.za. If you scroll up in the chat, there's details there. And I'm going to close it. We are 8 minutes over. Alison, my question was more about the educational content producers, i.e. curriculum materials, not so much the recycling implementers as such. It would be good for the content producers to know each other to avoid duplication. So yeah, Kath, I know you producing content. I know, for example, Plant the Seed has made content. Who else makes educational content out of interest? Do you know?
There is a nice lady in Cape Town, Something Heroes, does really nice content.
Not Waste Heroes. No.
Is it? No, it's not Waste Heroes. It's two ladies. One was a teacher and the other one was a designer. They came out really nice content. but they don't generally share it. They have a license on the characters, and the minute you try and share it, you have to pay them a licensing fee. So we don't have licensing fees and stuff like that on ours, and that's why if someone asks if they can share any of the content, we'll just as a courtesy ask the clients, because it is freely available on our website. Anyone can download it. I can't control that. I think the trick is people have been burnt in the industry when they've approached even the department to say, hey, I've got this amazing content to go in here. And they think they're going to be able to sell it to the department to make money out of it. Because he will tell you, it takes time to write a book and get everything in the nitty gritty, because he's got a beautiful storybook that he's written. But it takes years to do it. And then someone just takes it, mirrors it, and goes and puts it somewhere else and says, oh, that's mine. So a lot of people try and keep or protect their intellectual property. We don't. We put it in our books. On the inside of the book, it will say, you can copy and paste and do whatever you want with this stuff over here. As long as you're not selling it on a street corner, then you're fine to use it. Other people don't do that. So no, to be honest, I think that is what Safripol wanted to do. Safripol wanted to have a central database, get everyone's content in there, and get people to get anything they wanted from there. So you would literally have to go and find different companies that do it. I know there's really nice content that, and you've just said now you're with Tetra Pak now. They do a lot of work in the Eastern Cape as well, with Milk SA, with the cartons, and they run a competition over there, but they've got beautiful educational content around it. So that's a nice one.
Okay. Good to know.
I was also going to say that they can also try Polyco, www.polyco.co.za. See, I'm not sure with this one. I think even the Sustainable Seas Trust also had some educational content that educators and schools can also tap into or find out with them. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you. I just wanted to again say thank you for your time. I know we're a bit over because we started late, but thank you also to the speakers. I know how much time it takes to put together presentations, and for your time today, and for just sharing your knowledge, and again, just for all the work that you do and your passion and commitment to educating the future generations of South Africa to have a recycling focused mindset and a sustainability mindset. So thank you again, and if any of you have any further questions, you're welcome to just contact Petco at info@petco.co.za, and we hope that you will join us for our next sessions. They haven't been planned yet, but they will be happening at some point next year. So yeah, with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and thank you. And there's just a little feedback poll here if you would like to just tell us how you found the session. It's always good for us to have feedback. So we'll leave the poll up, but Sia, Emmy, Kath, you're welcome to leave. And everyone else, you are also welcome to leave when you are done. And have a great day further.